Thank you everyone for being here today. Good morning. We will get started soon. We just want to remind you that this session will be recorded. So if you prefer to turn off your camera, that's totally fine. Welcome to another EIA Lunch and Learn. My name is Paula Rodriguez, and I'm an employer coach with Goodwill Industries of Alberta. Today we have a guest speaker who is a passionate disability advocate and accessibility consultant from Edmonton. He is recognized with both the Queen's Diamond and Platinum Jubilee medals. He has collaborated with us on EIA, conducting workplace assessments for our clients and providing excellent reports and recommendations to create more inclusive workplaces. So without no further ado, I will pass things over to Zachary Weeks. Welcome, Zachary, and thank you for being here today with us. We are very excited to have you and to learn all the details about the workplace assessment.
All right, well, thanks so much, Paula, for the kind introduction, and it's an honor to be here with you folks over the next hour. It's been a real pleasure working alongside Goodwill to help out with some accessibility assessments in Edmonton and Calgary. Today's assessment, today's presentation, rather, I'm going to dive into, what that looks like, maybe some of the top things I've come across, and then obviously, some practical information for you to take home or back to the office with you, because nothing worse than attending a lunch and learn and not getting anything out of it. So hopefully, I can provide that value for you. I'm just gonna share my screen here. Let me just see. I don't see the share. Oh, there it is. Oh, wow. Oh, it's disabled. So,
give me 1 second.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, you can try now.
1 second. Can you hear me okay? Okay,
yes.
1 second.
We can't hear you anymore.
Okay, yeah, no, I just muted for a minute. It's not letting me share Paula. So do you want to just share it on your end, or?
I will.
Just 1 second. All right. So sorry about the noise in the background there. But yes, it's an honor to be here. And as I mentioned today, I'm going to go through some of the stuff that I've come across while working with Goodwill. Again, I'm here to help you remove barriers so more people can walk in, stay longer, and come back with access above all. And then, as I mentioned earlier on, we're gonna get some quick wins that you can apply this week in your organizations, your stores and restaurants, if there's any folks here that have restaurants. But yeah, that said, who here, I don't know if you can drop it in the chat or not, but who's here from nonprofit services? Or maybe, okay, there we go. Maybe retail or food, or maybe restaurants. Awesome. Okay. So we're getting a few people in here. Paula, maybe we can move to the next slide. And so obviously what's for lunch, because it is lunchtime, why this matters. We're gonna go through that. Obviously, the big thing that we're all here for is the top patterns. What happens after an assessment, and then the meat and potatoes, the takeaways of low or no cost fixes you can do this month, because at the end of the day, we know that money is sometimes a barrier, so we want to remove that barrier in the spirit of accessibility. And then we'll go through a 90-day checklist and simple measures, and then of course Q&A. So Paula, we'll move forward with this slide. So why this matters, obviously, there's the human side of it that provides safety, customer service, compliance is a big one nowadays, especially with the new Canada Accessibility Act, and then of course money. If we can have solid accessibility, we can actually make money from it in the form of repeat customers, or even just opening up your customer demographic to include people with disabilities and our seniors as well, who sort of intersect into that area. The stats say that 1 in 4 Canadians actually have a disability here in Canada. So that's a lot of untapped potential, which Goodwill knows all about with their work placements and the work that they do in the community. And then obviously, as I said above, inclusion drives the business. You get more customers served, you get fewer complaints and incidences because it's safer. And then ultimately, we can even start recruiting and retaining who I believe are the most loyal workers in the workforce, and that's people with disabilities, and diversifying your staff roster. Now, retrofits are always going to be harder to do. So obviously the accessibility consultant in me says, let's do accessibility up front so we don't have to fix it later on, and it costs a lot of money. That said, many fixes can be done, or improvements, maybe not fixes, but improvements can be done for no cost or low cost if you know where to look. Go ahead, Paula. So in terms of what I've seen, in terms of the audits that I've completed, and I think, Paula, we've done around 10 or 12 together. is really the basics in terms of access, and that's getting in, having, you know, parking lots that offer accessible parking, enough parking, and ideally parking that has the access aisle beside the stall to allow folks such as myself that use a power wheelchair or maybe a scooter or another mobility aid to unload safely. And then from there, it gets to the entrance. Parking is great and everything, but if you can't actually access the building, get into the building, then what's the point of being there, right? So, there's different ways that we can do that. I recognize that, the average door opener costs around maybe $5,000, which is a good chunk of money. However, there are low cost opportunities such as, having a phone number on the door saying, hey, if you need help, we're happy to help. You call this number, or, if there's a doorbell, you can always ring the doorbell, good old school doorbells. But yeah, that's one or two options that we can look at to improve entrances. Having the automatic doors, those are probably the cream of the crop. So if there's any, groceries in the audience today, absolutely go for that sliding automatic door. But once we get in, then we have to look. What I look at in my audits is how are we circulating in the space, and it really depends on the what the purpose of the building is for. Getting around, for example, in grocery stores, you want to have clear aisles, removing any sort of extra grocery stock from the floors if you don't need to. The counters, are they too high? Are you able to roll under if you're in a wheelchair to access, a point of sales, uh, um, dial pad? I don't know what they're called. It's a very technical word I use there, but point of sales systems. And then obviously, how we get around that is having those machines so that they're not fixed in one position. I love going into restaurants now because a lot of them are portable. They bring it to the table. You can just dial it in, that sort of thing. But that doesn't necessarily work for everyone. For example, blind folks. So, you really have to be mindful that where your accessibility short gaps are, that you can bring up your level of service, and that can really help. The other thing is dignity essentials, is what I call it, and that's washrooms. Having an accessible washroom on the ready that's truly accessible is a game changer, and one that will likely in itself just retain customers or visitors or whatever your business is, and not using it as a storage area. I go into a lot of grocery stores, and I'm doing my business next to Mr. Mop and Pail, right? So, it's really about making sure that you're going the extra mile, making sure that if you have a smaller washroom, you don't have extra clutter in there, making sure that the waste receptacle is out of the way but accessible, making sure that they have access to the paper towel, the soap, having a roll under sink that doesn't have a um, vanity in the way, for example. And then obviously, how do we get to the washroom, or even around the place we're visiting? Today's lunch and learn, I'll focus a lot on the physical environment, obviously, but it again intersects into different areas, and that's wayfinding. So a lot of places I've audited, they don't have the greatest signage in terms of what's located where, and that in itself is a game changer for anyone. We want anyone visiting or shopping or whatever the issue is at hand to be able to access what they need in a streamlined way. So making sure that signage is big and easy to understand, avoiding using jargon for those with learning disabilities who may not, or even ESL, having symbols as well, and making sure that the signage in itself is accessible. So having that contrast of black on white, or larger lettering, lettering that's easy to read, and honestly, I'll be frank, that isn't really my area of expertise. So I always recommend to hire a consultant for signage specifically, because there's only, like, there's so many things that are at play with that, with braille and tactile, making sure that there is braille for important things like washrooms, right? So people aren't going into the wrong washroom if they can't see the signage above. Paula, let's maybe move forward. But wait, there's even more. So we'll move forward on that, Paula. And so the other things I've noticed is some places don't have access to the lunchrooms, for example, in a supermarket or a factory. There's no elevators, so their staff have to, they have to eat in a separate area, which is unintentional segregation, right? Again, I don't think it's intentional, just something that we don't think of all the time. Emergency readiness, making sure that there's accessible plans. And when I mean accessible plans, I mean both physically and in writing, as to how to react if there is a emergency. So that builds into training and culture, which is a big piece of culture. That's a huge game changer for improving accessibility, training your staff to be on the lookout on what sort of downfalls or barriers may exist so that they can become little mini accessibility consultants, if you will. Making sure that they know to keep the aisles barrier free, that the aisles are not too close together. The tables in cafes are not are barrier free in terms of there not being any sort of you know pulls underneath that someone might hit their legs on, that sort of thing. Providing a few tables with movable chairs and knee clearance, keeping at least one path free to each location. When it comes to menus or different programs, making sure that you offer that in large print or high contrast, or a QR that opens an accessible menu, which doesn't contain any sort of image only PDFs. And if it does, to make sure you describe the image at hand. A small pen and pad card or order form at counter helps those who are deaf, hard of hearing, or having like a tablet on hand, so that you're able to communicate if you run into that. So essentially, making sure that access isn't the feature, it's the foundation, right? And building that into the customer service side and the training for staff can be really doable. One thing I already mentioned, the portable reachable card readers, tap to pay at table or low counters, providing a lower service for signing and bagging, train staff on offering, not on insisting on assistance. So as much as we like to jump in and help, no, that's a big no-no. Always ask if you can help. If the person says no, I'm good, okay, let them do their thing. I mean, that said, if they're about to fall over or something, maybe take things into your own hands, no pun intended. But it's always critical to make sure that we're asking before doing. Let's see, reachable hooks or lever taps in the washroom is another thing I forgot to mention. And I would even encourage everyone to create a path of a customer or a client, and go through it that way, one step at a time. For nonprofits, sorry, let's move forward on the slides. I'm getting too excited over here. So anyone who watches WWE, hopefully you can appreciate The Rock. I know he's one of my favorite. So what happens after an audit? And that's really where the rubber hits the road. And I think we have one of our clients in the room from Calgary. Is that correct, Paula? Okay, perfect. So
Yes, yeah.
yeah, feel free to jump in at any time to offer your insight as well. But this is sort of what they did, what changed, and how we solved the toughest constraint. And this is built upon anonymous post-audit comments. So again, launching that employee in leadership training. This was a factory that I actually went through that did a high volume of things in the factory. I can't reveal the secret sauce and all this, but take my word on it. It was hopping in there. But so they launched employee and leadership training and obviously shared the report highlights that I found with their staff. In terms of the impact, there was more conversation and awareness about disability and inclusion, and the walkthrough with the leaders that I had with them on site to see their site really opened up their eyes on things that they never would have thought of. Whether it was those barriers in the washroom or pathway of travel, turning radius, that sort of thing, signage for those that are deaf or hard of hearing. You know, the real intangibles is where they learned how to improve access. And again, everything is done on an individual basis, because let's face it, accessibility is not a one size fit all. I see a name in the chat that I recognize, Chantel Robinson. Awesome. Yes. Yeah, so many ready to go recommendations. Thanks for saying that, Chantel. I promise I didn't pay her to say that. But the big thing is looking at the barriers that were faced and a workable approach that works for each individual area. Because, like I said, what works for one may not work for others. So that involved some of the barriers there were scheduling training without stopping production. So they did that by short huddles or micro modules, on-demand recordings. So you meet them at their level, if that makes sense. Go ahead there, Paul. We'll move to the next. There we go. So here's where we get to break barriers, but not the bank, because maybe that's my Irish side coming out or my Scottish side, where I'm a little bit frugal and don't like to spend money unless I have to. And this is where we can get some low or no cost fixes you can do this month. Adding threshold ramps where needing. Again, I mentioned the doorbell for the phone number, having also the texting option for those that are deaf or hard of hearing, because if they can't hear, then that conversation is not going to go too well. So having that as an option, restriping or labeling 1 or 2 accessible parking stalls, bonus points and candies if you do 2 stalls instead of 1, and my gratitude, of course, which I don't know how much value that holds, but nonetheless, it's there. Decluttering displays or pathways, that can be in a nonprofit, that can be done anywhere. And again, washrooms. Make sure you're relocating the bins or the garbage, lowering dispensers, making sure that you're meeting code for installing L and horizontal grab bars and making sure that you have a 1,500 millimeter turning space minimum for people in wheelchairs or scooters. I think that is now going to be increased to 1,750 millimeters with the new Canadian Standards Association. Let's see. I'm gonna give some other quick wins here. So clipboards with easy grip pens, as well as another good one that are low cost. A seated option and lower writing surfaces. I talked about that. Intake forms. So making sure that these are in plain language. Like I said, this helps those that may have some reading comprehension issues, maybe some dyslexia as well, or even just ESL. We have a lot of great new immigrants coming to Alberta, so that's another opportunity to expand your horizons in terms of those you service. Offering to read aloud or filling out the form together. I myself sometimes have a struggle with that. I can fill out the form, but will be there till Christmas if I do. So let's maybe not wait that long. Again, the large print and digital options are game changers. Offering choices in terms of appointments, and I think that's pretty generic, but goes a long way. So doing it by phone, email, or text, making sure that closed captions are turned on for the meetings, making sure that there's a quiet space for those who may need it. Seeing a lot of folks benefiting from that with neurodivergence, and I absolutely love it. Visual and spoken instructions, because we do process information differently as humans. In terms of events, having flexible seating as well, ASL by request, having instructions around transit, dietary access as well, making sure that we're keeping in mind allergies. Let's see. So I think that's a lot. I've done a lot of talking, which is not uncommon for me. But Paula, do we want to move forward to yes, the checklist. All right. So I want to challenge each and every one of you to come up with a checklist. Actually, I can even provide this after the event, because yeah, I want to make sure that you're set up for success. But train 100% of the front line and supervisors, create an accessibility buddy for new hires, and that can go a long way to making sure that you're moving the needle on accessibility. Doing a quarterly inspection of doors, routes, signage, washrooms, counters, alarms, because let's be honest, things happen along the way, and I'll just place this here for now and then we forget about it. I'm great at that, and my wife is also great at reminding me to pick up my crap and put it away. So that said, we want to have measurable outcomes, and that's tracking the number of barriers found, for example, you can do that. The number that are fixed, you can even break it down to how long it takes to fix, and then obviously making sure that those changes are actually making impact and offering opportunity for customer feedback or clients, whatever your target audience is. Now, this is where it gets a little bit more stringent. I'm a pretty easygoing guy, but at the same time, we need to be held accountable for our commitments, and the Accessible Canada Act requires that folks publish an accessibility statement on their website and a feedback mechanism or channel to help increase accessibility, not just in Alberta, but across the country. So if you need help with that, I'm happy to help out. Again, I'm not here to plug my services. There's a lot of great accessibility consultants out there. I may be the best looking, but no, I'm kidding. That said, I can help out with drafting an accessibility statement, or even just displaying that you're committed to that and that it's a welcoming environment. And we're seeing this intersectionality wise, right, with LGBTQ safe spaces and all this stuff. So, yeah, let's maybe move forward. Oh, I didn't, see, I didn't have my phone number. I got distracted. My goodness. Wrestling was probably on. But I'll give you my number right now. Old school 780-718-3188. And the rest is all correct. I even spelled my name right. So that's a win for me today.
That's okay, Zachary. Thank you. I will be sending an email with the checklist as well, the contact info, so
Perfect.
you can reach out to Zachary as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that is basically the ins and outs of what I've found over, over maybe 2 dozen audits. I've done at least a dozen with Goodwill. And I guess I'd just end it by saying that good design doesn't exclude, great design empowers, and when we do that, we show that it's not just charity or the right thing to do. It's leadership. So thank you all, and I hope I can answer some Q&A if there is any. Is there any questions? While we hopefully wait for some question. Oh, someone can't unmute. I do see some questions here in the chat. Let me just see. Paula, are you there? I think you might be frozen. Y'all can still hear me, eh? Okay, 1 second. Jenny, I see that your hand is up. I'm gonna try and,
Perfect,
Okay.
thank you.
okay,
Can
cool.
I have a question?
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know if, and if you don't have an answer, that's totally fine. I was just wondering if there is an accessibility standard that you would recommend for, because I know there's Alberta building codes, there are provincial building codes, there are some cities have built their own standards. Is there any that you would recommend?
So, and that's part of the challenge with accessibility, because at
Hmm.
least in Alberta, there's not one specific, accessibility legislation. It's a cobble work of like 30 different policies, and none of them talk to each other, of course, and
Yeah.
so my recommendation is to, at minimum, and I hate minimums, uh,
Mhm.
go with Alberta's building code, but also, if you want, you know, to really kick people in the ass and change things, then I would follow, uh, you know, the Canadian Standards Association as well. Uh,
Okay.
and again, that's where, the benefit, again, not to plug my stuff, but like I go in and make sure that I'm consulting the business and applying what applies to them in terms of building code, CSA best standards, ADA, American Disability Act. They're 30 years ahead of us.
Yeah.
So if you want the ultimate answer, don't go to America, but go to America. But um, yeah, that's what I would recommend. I think, we've done some great work with the new Accessible Canada Act, but yeah, the short answer is consult them all, and then if you have questions, you can always reach out.
Okay, thank you. That's very
Yeah,
helpful.
yeah, no worries. All right, I see a question in the chat from Michelle. Uh, so for KPI, for customer feedback, what does that look like? So great question. I think, with customer feedback, KPI is going to look different depending on what you offer. So are we seeing more people with disabilities coming out to our establishment? What is their experience like when they arrive? Is it good, bad, the ugly? Hopefully it's not the ugly or the bad, but at the same time, that provides an opportunity to, you know, uh, make improvements. Sort of what I mentioned earlier in the slides, around setting up, how many things have been identified as barriers. What have we done for fixing those barriers? Have there been any incidents that led to identifying those barriers? Hopefully not, but being proactive is a great way to avoid that. Um, Let me just see if there's any other questions. I don't see any other questions in the chat. If you do have a question, just raise your hand and I can um, try to unmute you. I think has Paula come back yet? She might be, she hasn't moved in quite a while, I'll tell you that. She's, so I think she might have got froze and hopefully she's No, I don't think she's been able to get back in. But nonetheless, what I will do out of this webinar, because I really want to, provide value for you guys, is obviously I'm gonna send you that 90-day guideline, and then also, the first 10 fixes. I have a handout called the first 10 fixes. That's a one-pager that provides help for retail and nonprofit to move the needle on accessibility. I guess Paula can still hear us. Okay, sounds good. But yeah, I will have that circulated to Paula and the Goodwill team, and then they can share with everyone who attended. Other Q&A or questions I get are, we rent our space, what can we change? So on that situation, I would focus on movable fixes, like signage, path, clearance, counter add-ons, portable card readers, digital menus. We tried quiet hours, turnout was low. What I would say for that, keep it consistent. And maybe try it for 6 to 8 weeks, and make sure that you're advertising that at online or maybe at a point of sale area or reception area, and make sure that it's obviously sensory friendly signage, making sure that there's dimmer lighting, and then measure that revisit rate. The other big question I get is in this costly? I see Michelle had to run. Thank you so much for attending, Michelle. So yeah, is it costly? Most wins, as you've learned, are rearranging, reprinting, or retraining. So start with the bottlenecks. Savings show up in fewer complaints and faster service. Start small and then work your way up. How do we handle service animals? A simple script could be, "Hi, how can I assist you today?" And have the dog there and the sign. Again, that accessibility, safe space signage can go a long way. Just a reminder that, don't pet, don't feed, and ask any task related questions if necessary to help that individual. In transportation, I see a lot of issues around refusal of guide dogs and that sort of thing. In vehicles, mostly to do with, Uber or rideshare or taxis. There is an actual legislation for service dogs, so I would strongly encourage you not to go down that road. But yeah, again, I'm seeing that some folks have to run off, but I just want to say thanks for doing the work. Let's make the places we run and the products that we may be shipping places where everyone belongs. And when we rise louder, we rise together. So thank you.